Welcome back to Creative Cooking with Evan. All right, we ready to go? Woo! Today we're doing one of my favorite recipes. We'll learn how to make some melted chocolate. We're going to dip some fruit, some pretzels, or whatever you want in that chocolate. Now, this may seem complicated, but I guarantee it's a lot easier than you think it is. So, first, everyone, have you washed your hands? I know I have, but have you? If not, go on over to that kitchen, start washing. Now, before we get started, it's important to describe how we're going to be doing this. Now, if you simply take chocolate and throw it in a pan, the pan is going to be too hot for that chocolate and it will cause the chocolate to burn. We're going to use something called a double boiler. Now, a double boiler is very simple. It's simply a bowl that you put on top of a pan, or pot, with about an inch of water in the bottom. And as the water boils, steam will rise and heat the bowl in an even way that's not too hot to burn the chocolate, but hot enough to melt it. So, let's get started. So, first thing I'm going to do is put this on the stove. So as for mixing the chocolate, now's a good time to think about any of your neighbors or family members who maybe need you to check in on them a little bit. Maybe you have an older neighbor who needs a call, or a grandparent who would love to see you on video chat. It's important to realize that during this time, we all have to be extra kind to one another. Now, if you are extra kind, hopefully your parents will see that and reward you with a little bit of delicious melted chocolate. Now, you see by now, the chocolate is pretty much all melted. Now, I'm going to put a little bit more in there, put the other half in, and work the other half into that already melted chocolate. Just put a few chips in at a time and work them in and just get them nice and melted. Be careful. While you may be able to touch some parts of this bowl, it can be unpredictably hot. So, if you want to do that at home, make sure you get an oven mitt or some sort of other dish towel to make sure you're not going to burn yourself. I've been cooking for many years, so I got real nice thick fingers that don't quite burn as easily. Keep working it in, keep working that chocolate in. And soon we're going to have wonderful, delicious, melted chocolate covered whatever you want. Feel free to go crazy with this. If your mom and dad, maybe they'll let you even try putting a whole carrot in there. Probably will take terrible, but who cares? It's up to you. Okay. Let's go. Keep mixing. Mixing up that chocolate. Mixing up that chocolate. Okay. It's looking pretty good. Now let's take a little look at my pot and make sure your pot looks kind of like my pot. Now, this shouldn't be soupy. It should be kind of thick, but not too thick that it doesn't drop down. You see how it still comes off my whisk? Delicious. Before we start our dipping process, let's make sure that we have a plate ready to put our things on. So, I'm going to get some bananas, and a couple pieces of pineapple that I'm going to pat dry before I even put them on my plate. Now, if you have a wooden skewer or something like that to hold this while you dip in the chocolate, that's great. But I'm just going to use a normal fork. We're just meant to be having fun, so there's no real rules here. And whatever you do is going to be great. So I'm going to turn the chocolate off because we're not going to need to keep it hot for much longer. But I'm going to leave it on top of the stove one way or the other. So, first up, the banana. So, I'm putting it in and kind of twirling it, getting chocolate evenly on the whole thing before I then put it on my plate. If you have parchment paper or something like that, that might be a great thing to put down on your plate. I do not. So I'm just going to simply put it on my fork, swirl, flip, and grab. Then you should have a nice amount of chocolate on that banana. Ooh, forgot the word for banana for a second. Okay, let's do the pineapple. Again, twirl, and flip, push it off, and get the rest of the pineapple in the chocolate. There we go. Wonderful. Now, this part might be a little bit of a mess, so make sure you aren't touching anything after this until you wash your hands. Sometimes it's fun to cover the whole thing with chocolate, and sometimes it's fun to leave a little place where you can grab. As you can see, my plate is a little bit of a mess. No problem, we're going to be putting that in the freezer. I got some pretzels. I love chocolate-covered pretzels, so let's do one together. I'm simply going to put it in with my hands and sort of move it around in the chocolate. The chocolate is hot, so if this is too much for you, use a pair of chopsticks or something like that. Now I have the chocolate-covered pretzel, put it on the plate. I am now going to put the plate into the freezer and give it 30 minutes to an hour, and then you can pull it out and these things should be ready to go. You can also put it in the fridge for the same amount of time, but for now I'm going to try to use the freezer. And that's it. You have dessert waiting for you and a nice fun activity to do for everyone. Let's check back in an hour and we'll see how it goes.